Hi, I'm Matthew Morrison. I hope you're having a great day. I just wanted to send you a short message to let you know I created a series of short videos from a webinar I recently recorded on how to create financial freedom. This particular video coming up, it's the first in the series of 4, and this one's all about how much is enough really. How much is enough in terms of the levels of assets you need to build to create financial freedom for yourself and also to potentially leave a legacy. I hope you enjoy the video and get some value from it, and I'll see you at the end. How much is enough? And how much is enough really? And once again, by how much is enough, I mean how much income producing assets or how much investment assets, so everything really excluding your home, how much do you need to cover the lifestyle that you want in an ongoing and sustainable manner? And once again, the answer is it just depends. It depends on a number of things which we'll cover, but first and foremost, it depends on what level of lifestyle that you want. So it comes back once again to knowing your vision, getting really clear on your vision, getting really clear on what your future desired lifestyle looks like, and understanding what that's likely to cost in today's terms to fund that lifestyle. And another one that we don't know is how long we're going to be around for, because that's a big variable. But at the same time, I prefer to take the view that we're going to be around to at least life expectancy, if not beyond that, with medical advances and so to speak. So this graphic here looks at, ideally, you'd be building wealth while you're working. So using your cash flow to build assets while you're working, to get to a point where you choose not to work, but don't have to take a 70% drop in lifestyle. But ideally, in that perfect world, to be building up enough assets during your working life, so you're able to replace your income or cover the lifestyle that you want for life after work in an ongoing and sustainable manner. So not just for 7 years and then drop off a cliff here, but ideally be covering your cost of living for as long as humanly possible, if not well beyond life expectancy. And I'll go through a little bit later how much is enough to not only cover your own lifestyle, but then pass on a bit of a legacy to the next generation. Now, in terms of how much is enough, there's various studies that are put out, and in my humble opinion, once again, there'd be plenty of differing opinions, but in my humble opinion, some of the figures that are put out can be quite misleading. And what I mean by that is ASFA, who are the Australian Superannuation Fund Association, say that a comfortable lifestyle for a couple, this is not individually, but a comfortable lifestyle for a couple in retirement costs around about $59,000. And for some that will be more than they need and some will be less. But from what I see right now with most clients who are retiring or have retired over the last 5 years or so, they're typically spending a lot more than what they actually originally thought they would. Because all of a sudden they've got more time on their hands, they're no longer at work, so they've got more time to catch up with friends or cover activities. And all those things cost money. Plus also, they suddenly have complete freedom in terms of time. So they're traveling a lot more than what they did when they were working, where they didn't have any time. So from what I see based on evidence and what I see based on at least 100 clients who are currently in retirement phase, I would highly recommend that everyone aim to cover at least $80,000 to $100,000 lifestyle spending in today's terms, just to give you choice, just to give you freedom. Now, you don't have to spend it all, of course. You can keep it in the bank account or actually gift it or give it to charity or do whatever you choose to do, but at least have the option in the first place to be able to cover that lifestyle if you so choose. Now, ASFA say that you need around about $640,000 as a couple, $640,000 investment assets. So once again, everything excluding your home to cover $59,000 over the course of time. This has a few massive assumptions though. And sorry to be a little bit passionate about this, but I do think one of the biggest risks that most people are going to face, and we'll just for radical transparency, most of our clients are in Gen X, so somewhere between late 30s to early 50s. I'm Gen X. I'm 41 years of age, and most clients are give or take 5 years of me roughly. But I do think that the biggest risk most Gen Xers are going to face, and everyone for that matter, is they're going to actually outlive their money, because life expectancy is increasing at a rate of knots with medical advances, with technology. Right now, life expectancy is around about 85 to 87 years of age. I personally believe that life expectancy for Gen X and Gen Y will be 100 years of age within the next 10 years. Now, if everything's really geared to life expectancy being around about age 85, no, by that rationale, people are going to need more to cover more years for life after work. It also assumes another big thing, that the age pension will still be around in its current state. So therefore able to really cover a foundation, and therefore $59,000, or sorry, $640,000 helps fund, I think it's around about 2/3 of spending, and then the part age pension that people would get based on those assets covers the other third over the course of time. But it's a massive assumption. And I prefer to take the view that the age pension won't be there at all in the years ahead. And if it is there for anyone, it's only going to be a bonus. But I do think it's going to be harder and harder to actually get the age pension in the years ahead. And it may well be that, in 10 or 20 or 30 years' time, people will be only able to get the age pension when they're down to their last dollar and forced to sell their home. Who knows? But I do think that any planning should be based on the fact that there won't be an age pension available, certainly not available for the vast majority of people. The other one, as I've alluded to already, that $59,000 will cover a comfortable retirement. There are a few clients at the moment who are able to live on less than that, and it really comes down to what their lifestyle was and what they were used to leading up to retirement. But on average, once again, most clients are really aiming and wanting to cover around about $80,000 to $100,000, and to be able to do that in a sustainable and ongoing manner. And I highly recommend that you base any of your own planning on the same. So with all that in mind, how much is actually enough? Now, I'm sorry just to throw up a lot of numbers here, but how much is enough really depends on a couple of things. Once again, it depends on length of retirement. That's another way of saying life expectancy for life after work. It also depends on what sort of desired spending you do want to cover for life after work. The other thing, or the other variable, it depends on how your funds are invested. In this particular example, whether it be in a balanced portfolio or whether it be 100% in cash, and some earnings assumptions around that. Based on the averages, I know no one gets actually 4% in cash at the moment, but just so you know, all these numbers are based on what if cash earned 4% on average over the course of time, which is about the average over the last 20 years or so. But also the average balance portfolio over the last 20 or 30 years has been around about 7.4%. So really the one thing to highlight there, one of the biggest risks that anyone can take is actually not taking on any risk. And what I mean by that, if you stick everything in the bank or take the view that for life after work, you're going to put all your investments in cash, earning optimistically 4%, you actually need far more in assets because it's not working as hard for you over the course of time compared to if you're in a balanced mix of assets. So a bit in property, a bit in shares, a bit in cash and fixed income, but just a broad diversified mix of various asset classes. So let's pick an example, shall we? So let's say you're 45 years of age. Let's say you're a 45-year-old couple, roughly, and you'd like to be in a position to retire or choose to be financially free in 20 years' time and cover $100,000 per annum for life after work. And optimistically, let's say at age 65, your life expectancy is 30 years of age. So you need to actually cover your cost of living all the way through to age 95. And Once again, you may not be traveling, you may not necessarily be spending $100,000 per annum on lifestyle and having fun, but who knows with aged care and so forth, and if you're actually living that long, you might need to spend more on health or care or some sort of other things that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate right now. So for the sake of this discussion, let's say you need to cover $100,000 per annum from age 65 all the way through to age 95. So in today's terms, and let's assume you invest in a balanced mix of assets, in today's terms, you need around about $1.75 million income or investment assets, so everything excluding your home. This also assumes that you have absolutely zero left apart from your home at the end of life expectancy. So you're still able to pass on some sort of a legacy and some sort of asset to the next generation if you chose to do so. However, the challenge with all this is that this is in today's terms, not in future terms. But in terms of future dollars, so let's say you're 45 once again, and you want to be in a position to cover $100,000 per annum in today's terms from age 65 all the way through to 95 based on this particular section here. Now, to work out what you need in future dollars, 20 years time, you need about 1.8 times this. And just the back of the envelope calculation is about $3.15 million in future terms that you'll need in investment assets, excluding your home, to cover $100,000 per annum lifestyle all the way through from age 65 to age 95. Yes, that's a big number. Yes, superannuation contributions will get you part of the way there. But once again, it's never been more important to take control of your financial futures and create this for yourself, because the government would not be there to help you. And anyone relying on the age pension being available in 20 years' time, I think will be sorely disappointed. Now let's throw up another example. So once again, with superannuation, one of the dangers is the rules keep changing. And the rules will keep on changing. Look, I've been a financial advisor for 15 years now, and there must have been at least 100 rule changes in regard to superannuation. One thing I know for sure, that the current superannuation accessibility age of age 60 will definitely go up. And once again, I do think if you're under the age of 45, and maybe even under the age of 50, but let's say conservatively under the age of 45, any of your planning should be around not being able to access your superannuation till age 70. Now, what if, so based on a slightly different example before, what if you're currently 40 years of age and you'd like to be in a position to choose to stop work or choose to be financially free at age 60 and still cover $100,000 per annum for life after work? So you need the same total number as the previous example. So a total of $1.75 million in today's terms. However, if you get to age 60 and you're not able to access your superannuation until age 70, you need to be funding those 10 years one way or another without being forced to actually sell your house or forced to work longer than you would actually like to. So just to cover off on this section, look, once again, it's never been more important to build wealth outside of superannuation as well as inside of superannuation. And in this example of a 40-year-old wanting to be in a position to be financially free at age 60, or even a 45-year-old at age 65, roughly 1/3 of your wealth really needs to be built outside of superannuation, with the other 2/3 potentially inside of superannuation to grow and compound and eventually be able to access, say, from the age of 70 onwards, if the rules change to the degree that I think they will. So hopefully that's valuable. Hopefully that piece is valuable for your own planning. It's very, very important to really know how much is enough and then revisit that every now and then. But what if you want to actually pass on something to the next generation, or to pass on something to grandkids or great-grandkids, or one way or another actually leave a legacy in addition to being able to cover your own cost of living? Now, I won't, in the interest of detail, I won't necessarily dive into this in a great deal of detail. other than to say, it's fairly obvious, other than to say that you're going to need to build a greater portfolio of investments over the course of time. If you not only want to cover your own cost of living of, say, $100,000 sustainably in the years ahead, but also to actually pass on a nest egg to the next generation equal to what you have at the start of your retirement years, if that makes sense. I do have a blog that goes into more detail on this particular subject. It's called Lifestyle versus Legacy. But at the same time, on a percentage basis, you're going to need to cover and have around about 27% more in assets at financial freedom age if you want to pass on a legacy over and above covering your own cost of living through to life expectancy. So once again, important to know these things in terms of any planning. Hi, it's Matthew Morrison here again. Thank you so much for watching this video on how much is enough really. Hopefully you got some value from it. If you did, please take a moment to like and share this video with your networks or your friends, or send it on to people who you think really need to hear this message. Now, coming up in the next of this series is all about where should you invest your money? I get asked this question quite a lot. Where should I invest my money? In the next video, we dive into some of that and share with you some of that detail. If you're keen to chat further, feel free to reach out via our contact details on the screen. Until then, have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.